So, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us on the latest edition of the People and Business Forums. Today, we are going to be talking about creating a sustainable workplace. COP26 is starting in Glasgow on Sunday, and sustainability is now a consistent headline in the media. It's ever more important when we're thinking about brand culture and the footprint of a company, and many customers are now looking at a business's sustainability program and ethos, and then making their buying decisions with this in mind. In 1987, the United Nations Brundtland Commission defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And that seems to be something that's still very much in the mind at the moment. So how are we going to ensure our businesses and our teams operate as sustainably as possible? Hopefully our panel discussion today will help to give us some ideas and to guide us all on that. First of all, just like to do a quick survey of participants. Just want to know who here is here to learn from the beginning, has no knowledge of sustainability, who's already got an understanding, and is anybody here, apart from the panel, an expert on sustainability?
I have some understanding, but that's it.
Yeah, nobody professing in expertise. That's great, panel. You can say anything you want and nobody's going to argue with you. So yeah, I think most of us are, we see what we see on the news, but we don't really have a deep understanding of sustainability and how to build that into our businesses and our workplaces. So it's really important that we have these conversations and get more of an understanding. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the panelists that we've got with us. We have Meg from Cheltenham Zero and Simone from the Commercial Group. Meg, would you like to introduce yourself first? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your expertise.
Yeah, so my name is Megan Williams-Jones and I work for Vision 21 as the Climate Action Officer. The initiative I work on is called Cheltenham Zero. And that is a partnership between the charity Vision 21 and Cheltenham Borough Council. And we are aiming to encourage businesses, public sector and the voluntary sector to become more involved in helping achieve a net zero carbon Cheltenham by 2030.
Okay. Fantastic, thanks Megan, and hope we can achieve that goal. You'll do everything you can to get us there. Simone, would you like to tell us about yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Hi, everybody. My name's Simone Hindmarch, and I am MD of Commercial Group, which is a business services group that has customers mainly in the UK with a few across Europe as well. And we supply everything back office for big corporate companies. I got into the world of sustainability because I was a business development manager. So I started the company with my brother 30 years ago. 15 years in, I was invited by Sky, who were our biggest customer at the time, to see Al Gore when he did the Move the Inconvenient Truth. And it really changed the shape of our company. And I decided that we would be the most sustainable organization in our sector, and set an ambitious plan to reduce our carbon footprint by 75% and become zero waste in 3 years. And we achieved that in 4 years, both of those targets. And we've got probably about 108 initiatives across our organisation around sustainability. We've had 195 people involved in our programme. And in terms of building a culture, which I think is the most important part of any business, it's been the best thing that I've ever done in creating our business in 30 years. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So
that kind of says
yeah, you've walked the walk, so we can follow in your footsteps. We know that what you're saying is certainly achievable for all our businesses,
yeah,
our workplaces. Fantastic. So let me put the first question to you then, Simone. So if you were talking to a company that hasn't got a sustainability policy, haven't got a sustainability representative, or they've not started to think about the environment, what would be the top 3 things that you'd use to introduce sustainability into the company then?
I would, first of all, try and find out if there were people amongst their staff who were naturally very interested in lowering the negative impact of their organisation and increasing the positive impact that we can have. And there's lots of those champions in most businesses. Even when I started 15 years ago, there were 12 people that I kind of picked out of the business. And yeah, so I would gather a group of people, and I would never give it a job to one person. This is something that should be right at the center of your organization. I would then suggest that you measure everything that you're doing. So there are organizations that can help you, and I'd be very happy to help anybody. It's not that difficult to measure what you're doing. You just need to be in receipt of most of your invoices and travel, etc., expenses and travel, etc. And then I would just set a very brave ambition, because I think brave is what we need to be right now. Everybody is talking about this being the decisive decade with the tipping point, and I don't think talent will join your organization if you're not doing anything in this arena. And I think talent will join and stay with your organization if you're doing some great stuff around sustainability. So be very brave, and then just get going and be prepared to learn en route. I don't think you have to have a massive plan. Just say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be carbon net zero. We've got our plan by 2026. Our internal targets are to have zero impact from our organization. So set yourself a brave target and get going. Those would be my 3.
Fantastic. So yes, bravery. That's I think what a lot of business owners need to have, is a lot of bravery and resilience. Anyway, so Megan, you obviously, I think with your work with Cheltenham Zero, Vision 21, you probably have a lot of companies that are involved who haven't got to that starting point yet, or you are the starting point. So what do you suggest then? What are your tips to get started?
Yeah, so the aim of Cheltenham Zero is to bring everyone together to sort of, because it's easier to work together, you know, in a bigger group and learn from each other. So we are trying to facilitate sort of a base of knowledge and collaborative opportunities for people to sort of get involved with other businesses. It's a lot easier to sort of know the ins and outs of your own sector. So if we can connect people who are, say, for example, in the hospitality industry, who are already really quite far down the road of sustainability, and then someone else signs up who's in the hospitality industry but hasn't really started yet, it's good to be able to link them up, and then they can take inspiration from each other and sort of give a bit of advice to each other. That's like the basis of what we're doing at the moment. We've just launched our website very recently. It's just been sort of a few teething problems, but it's all up and live now. And the basis of that is to showcase what people are doing. So it's a nice, it's really easy to use website, and it has everyone's projects on it. So if you signed up Cheltenham Zero, you can showcase, so it's got the marketing aspect of, you can showcase what you're doing. But then if you are still at the beginning of the journey, you can see what other people are doing, and we can hopefully connect you to the right people who can help you sort of get started.
So having support, I think, can make a big help to people, isn't it? Having that support around you, and seeing other people going through the same steps as you, and maybe making the same brave decisions and challenges. Yeah. So you mentioned about sort of engaging with team members, people who are already interested in the subject earlier. So how would you suggest that we do engage team members, and probably the ones who were less engaged at the start? How would you engage them to come along on the sustainability journey, and how would you promote that through the company? How have you done that at Commercial?
So as I said at the beginning, if you can measure something, you can manage it. And I think sharing and breaking down what you're doing into very chunkable, sort of bite-sized goals, if you like, and empowering your individual staff to make decisions. So quite often people think being sustainable is going to cost more money. The truth is, some things you will need to invest in, but there are many things in a very short time you'll get a payback, if you like, by not using something, you know, as simple as, take example, disposable cups, which we used right at the beginning, and it was 9% of our waste. And simply by removing those cups, getting some plastic tumblers that we were able to use over and over again, you know, we were reducing cost by not putting things into landfill, and secondly, by, you know, not buying the cups, we just using those ones. So simple things like that, and share every good story. So even if it's simply in a spreadsheet, you know, where you've got everything that you're doing. I know that we've done 108 initiatives. Some of those initiatives are really big, like we will no longer buy any diesel cars, so it's purely electric or hybrid cars that we're buying. That's a big, bold ambition, if you like. And then you've got really small little things, but they're great stories, and communicate everything that you're doing to not only your staff, but to your customers and to your community. So, you know, if there's things that you're doing to minimize waste or to maximize a positive environment, make sure that your customers know about it. Make sure that your community knows about it, because that will keep people connected to your brand. And it's that, and your staff, it's that emotional connection that you get with sustainability. For everybody who's connected with you, it's not just about profit and pounds. And actually, we've, you know, since we embarked on this journey, we've grown. We're 7 times the size that we were. So when we started on this, we were a 17 million pound company. Now we're an 80 million pound company. So it's not true that it will stop you from growing as a business. It kind of connects people to you, is my view.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's you're creating a holistic view around the business. Everything is about sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the day and age right now. If you believe what the scientists are saying, that's very much a personal thing, but this is the decisive decade. It's these 10 years that are going to make a difference. And I believe that sustainability, you know, 4 years ago needed to be part of your corporate strategy. I believe sustainability should drive your corporate strategy now as an organization. And when you're thinking about everything, it should be, you know, how are we communicating that? How are we doing that in a sustainable way? And how are we making sure that everybody knows that we're doing it in a sustainable way?
Yeah, that's it. It's really keep talking about it, as you say, and of course, yeah, that's where one of Meg's jobs is to talk about it and to encourage people to go in. So from your point of view, Meg, I mean, I suppose you're trying to engage businesses very much, but when you engage with the business, how do you see them engaging team members and promoting the sustainability ideas and the zero idea through their companies?
Yeah, so I mean, it is quite, I haven't actually been in the job that long, so I haven't been out and about as much as I'd like to, because it has been mainly focused on the website. So really the people who I've been engaging with mostly are people who are quite far along the journey already and want to put out their projects on the website. I mean, the plan is going to be to start, now we've got the website out, we've got something physical to point people towards, we can go and visit some of these businesses and sort of see where they're at and where they think they want to start. I think that we want to just sort of see where they are and how we can get them started, maybe on some smaller things, and then sort of point them towards people who can help them in terms of if they don't know where to start with their carbon footprint, we can point them to some contacts that we have who could help get them started on that. And then if they are further on their journey, we'll talk to them about sort of what else they can do or how they could help other people. So that's going to be our next sort of step.
So that aspect that Simone was talking about with the talking about what you're doing and promoting that to your customers and things. So Shelter Zero would help with that side of things, with marketing the sustainability, really.
Yeah, that's definitely the aim.
I mean, for me, you can put lots of people, I banned signs telling people what not to do, because I wanted sustainability to breathe life into our organization. And if you're doing something that's good, it should breathe life into your organization. So we have a lot of celebrations of what we've done on the walls of our building. You know, when we became zero waste, we plotted it had taken 3 teams. We called it Change Champions. So it's like a program that you can join that changes our organization for the better. And we took photographs, you know, taking lots of photographs and communicating the good stories that you're doing, backs of loos, backs of menus and things like that. Telling people what you're doing is really, really important, and doing it in an aspirational way and in a way that everybody can get involved as well in your organization and your clients and your supply chain as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think the supply chain is possibly an important one, because you can feed back down the line.
Absolutely. And you will, there'll be things that they are doing, and the more you talk about the good that you're doing, it's like you're drawn to it. You know, it's like a magnet. You start to do more, and people start to be a little bit more open to, you know, talking to you about their ideas that they could do. Our Change Champions program was set up when it started to get a little bit dry. This was like 3 years into it. And I always believe that it's not a dirty job that's given to somebody. And I think in the early days of sustainability, you sort of see the green team walking towards your desk, you think, oh my God, what have I done? You know, here comes the tree hugger sort of thing. And gone are those days now. You'll be surprised over how many champions you have in your business and in your customers and in your supply chain that will tell you about the good stuff they're doing, and then we can challenge ourselves to go and do more and to keep doing more.
Yeah, I think the positive reinforcement is so much more effective than the negative reinforcement, and encouraging people to do something rather than discouraging them from doing something.
I'm a real, if they're red signs, I tend to be drawn to do what the red signs are saying.
Yeah.
So turn all the lights on, or, you know. Whereas if you talk about it in terms of the amount of electricity that you've saved and the positive impact that has had, as opposed to a sign which says make sure you turn the lights off when you leave the room, you know, it's kind of human nature.
Yeah, I think things like turn the lights off when you leave the room, and you'll be charging your mobile with the saving or something like that. Maybe. And I want to start with Meg on this question, is because, as you say, Meg, you're new into your role there at Vision 21, Cheltenham Zero, and I'm just interested, and we will talk to the audience as well and get the audience's view shortly on some things. But Meg, have you got any examples of any local initiatives you've seen or that have been created that you think work particularly well? Have you in your time before joining Vision 21 or since you joined?
I mean, there's a lot of, so I mean, most of the people I'm working with now are the people who are very on it with sustainability. I've done quite a lot about it, so I've seen all of like the best, I think, at the moment. So like that, my next thing is going to be talking to people who haven't quite got there yet. But there's like, I mean, just Vision 21 as a charity has got multiple initiatives. So Reclaim is one initiative, and that is in Cheltenham, and it's so if you've got furniture that you want to throw away, instead of throwing it away to the landfill, you can take it there, and then they sell it on to families who have got low income, and they also hire a lot of volunteers of people who've not got necessarily the best pass, and it sort of gives them some skills so they can be employed. And a lot of time, like a few people have been taken on from volunteers there, so that's sort of like, it's got the sustainability aspect of not throwing furniture away, but then it's also like helping the community, helping individuals. They've got the repair cafe, again, that happens monthly, and you can bring your devices in. so they don't have to be thrown away, and hopefully someone can fix them for you, save you a bit of money, and also stop the waste. And there's a lot of just smaller initiatives. So we have food loosers signed up to Cheltenham Zero, and they try to avoid waste as well. They it's like refill. So if you've got, I don't know, cereals or things that come in packaging, you can go there and refill up your jars. So there's loads of different little initiatives like that I've been working with. There's a lot of things going on in Cheltenham, I think, that I wasn't necessarily expecting there's be so much.
Yeah, it sounds like quite a list. And have you got any to add to that, Simone? Any initiatives that have caught your eye?
I think the best, I can only really speak from our story and what we've done, and I think our Change Champions is really good, and that would work across many organizations. So that, just telling you a little bit more about that program. So we have 10 commitments as part of our sustainability strategy, and that might be lower our carbon emissions, or it may be look after each other. And we have 6 people from different departments across our company who can join the program, and then they choose a commitment and they transform the company for the better. So they do a little presentation to the board, they ask for some money, they come up with an idea, and then we say yes, and then they are given also a budget to communicate in a really positive way what they've done. And we have a live wall outside our building, which is on an industrial estate, with lovely recycled benches underneath. So that was closed loop recycling from our own recycling. We have built, we've all learned to give each other heart-to-heart resuscitation. We've built a bike shed, and all of those things cost a lot less than had we employed somebody to do that job. And it just creates that cross-company relationship building, and by doing that, there gets this sort of turbo energy, I call it, within the company, as people are driving a program forward that is making our company healthier and more sustainable.
Yeah, and everybody's got some ownership in it then.
Yes,
You know,
yeah, so we've had that's how we've had 195 people involved in the program, because we've had I think we've had about 17 teams now of people work on the program, and 3 of those helped us go zero waste, so that they were all part of that program. And we have like a chute which goes straight down into our warehouse that was built by our own staff.
Right, so I'll have to come down and see this, see all these things that you built. Fantastic. And so where do you go for advice? Where do you turn for advice? Is there somewhere on the web or publications that you read, or is there, you know, is there somewhere you to go to find out where the best ideas are coming from, or is it all just
we go to a number of events. So I have 2 people now that I employ, so I generally take on a graduate each year, and then I employ somebody on the program, and so they'll go to events. We'll hear about government funding. So our biggest issue is fuel, because we're shipping lots of products. So we have 4,000 deliveries going out a day. And so first of all, we moved into biodiesel, and we had the first real-time biodiesel blending tank in Cheltenham. And then we moved into hydrogen, and we were part of 2 government-funded projects. So, you know, when you're on the cutting edge of new technology, sometimes you've got to go to events to meet other people that are like that. There's so much more around now, though. Everybody there are much more sustainable ways of doing things, and we're selling a lot more green technology to our clients as well now. So you're one of the places to go to for information as well now then. Yeah, we definitely, I mean, I'm very open, so we have lots of people who come and just walk around and see some of the things that we've done and get inspiration. And then there's products like charging points, etc., which we sell to clients as well and help them get funding for, etc.
Yeah, so it's quite a lot that can be thought of nowadays.
Yeah,
to get there. And Meg, yourself, I mean, obviously, as you know, you mentioned Vision 21 and Cheltenham Zero, you have resources as well. Apart from that, are there any other places or people or organisations that you'd suggest that we turn to for advice?
Yeah, I mean, that's, as Cheltenham Zero grows, we're hoping to get sort of more people signing up and more contacts. I think if you're starting out and you want to sort out your carbon footprint, I think that I've spoken a lot to Ian. I don't know how to say his last name. Ian
McQuain. Yeah.
And he helps people sort their carbon footprint out. I think he has different rates depending on the size of your business. There's like different companies that offer funding. So 7Y I know is one company who offers funding for, I believe, like energy, so alternative energy sources. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone else, but those are the two that are the main that we're like sort of pointing people towards at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. And like Simone says, there's more and more resources, more and more information coming on board now, isn't there? As people engage with more, as you say, Megan, the more people who engage, the more support there's going to be, the more ideas there are going to be, and the more we can drive forward. And on that point of it engaging, our audience, I'd like to turn to our audience and see if you have questions to ask. But I'll start with Lindsay first, because Lindsay was hoping to be chairing this event, but due to time scheduling, I jumped into the seat. But Lindsay, would you like to sort of introduce yourself and make some comments as well?
Well, thank you. Yes, I have to admit it was my technical incapability this afternoon that caused me to be slightly late, so apologies. The NHS were on time for once, so there we go. Yeah, so I own Cleve Hill Hotel and have been in the hospitality industry for a couple of decades now. And I really came into, I guess, the green, sustainable ethos concept many years ago, because when I was working up in London, one of the companies I worked for was part owned by Mark Sainsbury, son of Lord Sainsbury, who was one of the co-founders of the SRA, the Sustainable Restaurant Association. And he had an amazing passion for sustainability. And it was one of those, like Simone was talking about in terms of culture, it was just one of those personalities whereby you only had to listen to him for 5 minutes and you were like, sold, what do we need to do? I'll do it, it's fine. But I showed a bit of an interest and then was sort of looped into being in charge of it for the group that I was working for. So I got really into loads of different things in specifics with hospitality, and it's just fantastic to see how all of a sudden the things that seemed very unique and individual and starting now is normal. And in actual fact, we've pushed so far within the industry itself, it's great. But the problem is, I think what's being talked about now is the fact that we might have pushed far for us, but in actual fact for the planet, we're kind of here and there's still a very long way to go. So from that point of view, there was a conference last week and the SRA kicked it off with a good sort of 20-25 minute introduction to sustainability and all the rest of it. And I thought, my goodness, that's something that should be shown to every person everywhere, because it was just one of those great, really exciting, really positive, really fact-filled 20 minutes that really engaged everybody that was listening. And to me, I think that's, I mean, obviously Meg is taking on that branch now for Cheltenham. I think it's fantastic to see that the Borough Council's got their own sustainability section on the website. They've got somebody focused on their own sustainability as well as Cheltenham sustainability. And I think all of that investment is, well, maybe it's long overdue, but it's great to see. And those resources should be really utilised and flogged. But yes, some scary stats and statistics are out there at the moment, and I think it's why it's lovely now to be coming back at it, and in sort of a second wind, so to speak. And rather than, you know, that old woman who keeps talking about sustainability, now I just feel part of, you know, it's part of life. Everyone's talking about it. But, you know, and my godchildren, the eldest of 11, you know, they're talking about it with me, and they're talking about, you know, oh yeah, but what about this and what about that? And we had a really fantastic discussion about slime, because one of them slightly obsessed with the slimy gloop that comes
Wondered
out.
where you were going with that then.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, because the slimy gloop that comes out of these bottles that you can throw against a wall or your brother or whatever, obviously it's just plastic and it will just go into landfill. And it was really interesting because she was so excited to get it for her birthday. And then we kind of were talking about the sustainable side of it. And all of a sudden she had a real think about it, because she realized that it was just going to go into the bin and that wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. So I love the fact that now 11-year-olds are sort of engaged as well. So yeah, so I have a massive passion for this, not primarily obviously with the hospitality industry, but you know, yes, right behind everybody, and happily dedicating hours to sharing as much as I can and talking as much as I can in the area, but also for the industry. So yeah, super excited.
Yeah, and I think you synced in very well with Simone on the when you were talking about positivity and being positive message getting across. And I think Meg was talking about that as well. Is we tend to hear about the doom mongers on the news. It's how everything's going to be terrible, how everything is you know, is grey and dull, and you know, the world's going to end if we don't do these things. Whereas actually, if you talk about the positive message, people are much more likely to follow along and to get engaged.
And it's also keeping it really simple. I mean, anybody running a kitchen at the moment, professionally or even personally, you know, my brother has a new, you know, has a tiny child, and you know, when the council changed and he had to sort of split his food waste out, his brain melted, and he was like, no. And then you're like, well, just put that bin there and you're done. You know, it's really simple things, and trying to do that now in an industrial kitchen, again, it's trying to make it easy, and it's great because companies like Indigestion, who are local and one of the leading kind of companies in terms of food waste and how they process it, etc. Years ago, if you said, oh well, we can't do this, can't do that, they'd have been like, oh well, tough. Whereas now they're coming back going, okay, well, we'll do it, but we need to do this in order to make it happen. Can you help us make it happen? Oh yeah, okay. Excellent. So to have that whole supply chain reversal, you know, when you're actually talking to the dairy, or you're talking to meat suppliers and fish suppliers in particular, because fish obviously is a phenomenally hot topic in terms of sustainability, they're actually right there happy to talk with you and work out how to make things better. And actually, you know, my local bakery used to bring everything in a cardboard tray, no problems at all. You know, they take the cardboard tray back. No, now they've started doing it in plastic bags. And I said, well, why have you done that? And they said, oh, it's easier for us. We can just carry the bags in and put them down. And I said, yeah, but what happens to all the plastic bags? You've literally just made this effort to go from being sustainable to really unsustainable because you've got these plastic bags. And I said, I don't want the plastic bags. I said, I'll happily buy some plastic containers for you to fill or to take or to go around in a cycle. I said, but there's absolutely no way I'm having plastic bags turn up each week, because I don't want 4 or 5 plastic bags to then have to take down to a supermarket in the hope that they then recycle it all properly and it all goes around in a big circle. I'm like, nope. So yeah, and they hadn't thought about it. Scarily enough, they had not thought about it. They looked at it from the cost and from the ease, and they had not thought about sustainability. So I sort of marched in and said something, and then they were like, okay, we'll never think about it. So you know.
So that leads on to a good question for the audience here. Actually, I'd like to ask the audience: have you thought about, you know, how much have you thought about sustainability in your business and introducing that idea to your business? Is it something that's at the forefront of your minds, or is it something that you think about occasionally when you see the headlines? How does it affect yourselves? Let's start with Nigel first.
I'd say it's absolutely central. I have a house in Ewley and I've put solar panels on, which caused a bit of a flurry at the local parish council because people said, oh, you know, it's an 18th century cottage. We don't want solar panels on top. So yeah, I felt for a long time that we should be talking much more about this. I'm a retired doctor and I run a animation studio making films. And we've made films about microplastics in rivers and the sea. And we're currently doing one about COP26. I'd love to find ways to persuade people who haven't yet come round. And, you know, I feel animation is easily shared and this is the age of the moving image. So I'm doing my best to spread that and to work with sustainable materials. One of our films is called Sexy Recycling, and that's got a premiere in Copenhagen. And it's purely using recycled materials to make the film. So yeah,
Perfect.
I'm convinced, but how to win people around.
Yeah,
That's
think, well,
fantastic. I really want to watch Sexy Recycling. I'm there already.
I'm just wondering how you market that, a film in Denmark about sexy recycling. It takes me back to the 80s and that's amazing. Ken, how about you?
Well, things have changed a little bit. Just my background, I came to Cheltenham as a Delphi student apprentice, mechanical engineering, but my final job there was as facilities manager at Delta Group headquarters at Old Court. A really enjoyable job. Privatisation of the electricity supply was underway at the time, and Delta's have over 60 factory sites in this country. So I was one of a group of 6 negotiating with the power companies to get the best price. I know that's not quite sustainability, but it does save money. For the businesses that my wife and I ran, it's changed a little bit because we're putting our industrial unit up for sale. So many of the things I was going to do there, like putting flat screen LED lights in the suspended ceiling, are on, well, they've been cancelled, as it were, because someone who buys it might come in and change the whole outfit. Turning it over to what goes at home, we recycle everything. For just 3 adults, we maybe have just 2 black bags a fortnight in the green bin. Everything else gets recycled. We're fortunate to have enough space, so our bin men pick up a box from me, and it contains glass, another one contains paper, plastic, and so on. I think for people in flats and people who just put out one mixed box of things, just makes it so difficult. As far as plastic goes, I think a lot of the problem is people, not plastic. I go along with things that have been said. I did speak to Cheltenham Borough Council because a lot of the recycling skips disappeared from car parks. And at Charlton King's car park, they had everything. You could recycle Tetra Packs. That is now completely just a car park. So we have a box filling up with Tetra Packs. Now, do I have to go down to the recycling site, 8-mile round trip, queue for half an hour to get in, to get rid of Tetra Packs? That's not a sensible idea, unless there may be another skip somewhere at a supermarket site where I can get rid of them. I'm not going to put them into landfill. Just going back to what I do, wine talks and tastings, and I had a wine shop in Cheltenham for 11 years. I'm the only collector in Cheltenham of corks that go to a national charity. I've collected 173 kilograms of corks. And if you want to relate that, to something, wine corks 200 a kilogram, sparkling wine corks 100. That's a hell of a lot of corks. The cork's worth about a penny to the initial charity, and they're helping Frank Water in Bristol, an international charity who provide fresh water and sanitation to remote villages in Nepal and India. So I get regular supplies of corks, bags left at the front door, which I'm pleased with. Corks in landfill do nothing, but at least they're doing something for a charity. So if any of you know anybody, most of the corks come from clubs and associations, and a little bit from domestic consumption, you understand. But please let me know. Drop me an email through the system, Steve, if anybody would like to collect their corks. I'll be very grateful.
I've
How would you-
always
how would you
wondered what
like-
to do.
Well, I was going to say, how would you like a whole industry full of corks? Like, I was going to say, if I mean, because, so as an example, I know one of our nightclubs, so I collaborate a group called Turf. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but Turf Cheltenham, TURF, Turf Cheltenham. And we're a group of 45 independently, well, we all own and operate our own businesses. We're all independent. One of the nightclubs that's part of the group, all of their sort of lemon and lime peelings and any eggshells or anything like that all goes into a big pot and goes off to the allotments.
Yeah.
So we're seeing whether we can do some sort of collaborative between all of us to work out whether we can actually get some more bits and pieces down to the allotments, because obviously that really helps the allotments because they need it to actively help the compost, I think. But if you were interested in having corks from us, because I know there's we have to make quite a lot of screw top at the moment, but yes, if you were after corks, then more than happy to see if I could organise that.
Let's get in touch then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, happy to.
I'm just thinking there's probably a lot of corks get popped around Prestbury. A lot, particularly Prosecco from my experiences. So let's put a bag up somewhere. Stephen and Angela, your videos aren't on, but hopefully you are listening to us. Steve, do you have what's your experience with your business and sustainability? Is that at the forefront of your minds? It doesn't look as though we have Steve. Do we have Angela? No, we don't have Angela. And Nigel, 1:15. Thanks for joining us, Nigel.
Thanks.
Thank you for taking part. It's really it's interesting actually. I thought what Ken was talking about with the recycling there, and you came on with the food going to the allotments there, Lindsay, is a big difficulty I have is with recycling, because I think, where do I recycle things? The Tetra Packs I try to take to Sainsbury's, but the bin is always full. There's no space to put them in. The council sometimes takes them in the green bins, sometimes they don't take them, to recycle. And I just wondered, maybe I'll ask Simone first. As a business, when you're recycling for your business, how do you navigate that, and how do you decide what you can recycle and where you can take it to be recycled?
It took us, as I said to you, there are 3 teams that worked on it, so we kind of gradually worked the waste streams through, and the hardest part was polystyrene. That's our hardest item to recycle, because we have a lot of print output devices which are ordered, so we might do a refresh of 400 machines, and they all come with the big pieces of polystyrene, ultimately be found somewhere, just like Lindsay was saying earlier. You find what a piece of rubbish for you is actually a piece of gold for somebody else, and we found somewhere where we had to buy a crusher that crushed them down into little blocks like this, and then we sent it off to a factory that we use them, basically. So if somebody was trying to go through their waste, you just gradually look at, well, if you're doing it in the right way, which Lindsay has also done it in the right way, you reduce. So what can you get rid of at source, like the plastic bag option? You reuse, so you reuse what you can, and then you recycle the rest. So that's, and you just look at all of your waste streams. So at the beginning, we did 144 skips a year, and I remember, and after a year and a half of work, we got them down to 12 skips. And I remember just drawing the pictures, and that was being up on the wall, look where we've got to, and we've only got this 12 to do, and then we just counted those down. So you're all on a journey. Just be really brave. We set that ambitious goal to be 0 waste, and that took us, it actually took us 5 years. So I said we're going to do it in 3, and it took us 5 years. It doesn't really matter. We were brave, and we went for it, and we eventually got there.
It's
So there's-
actually, I was going to say, it's a very similar journey I'm on at the moment with indigestion, because it seems bonkers, but so I'm part of Tewkesbury Borough Council, so I have very different recycling to Cheltenham, and I personally think it's much better. But in Cheltenham Town Centre, all of the businesses obviously have to pay to have their waste collected, and their food goes into black waste, which to me sounds absolutely archaic. It's just bonkers. But nowhere is the Borough Council happy to move forwards and say, okay, well, here's food recycling. So I said to Indigestion, right, if you could get the whole of Turf on board, all 45 businesses, is that worth enough money to you to start doing daily collections of smaller boxes? Because again, storage is a problem. There isn't anywhere to put waste in the centre of town because they haven't got any, there's just no space to store bins, etc., etc. And he said, yeah, let's work for it. But I know they've spoken to the bid about trying to get things done for a larger section. So I said to the bid, right, do you know what? I'm going to push forwards, because if I can do it for turf, it's going to be a blueprint for you to do it for bid. So I kind of want to keep pushing forwards with this and seeing if I can get it to work, because the cost savings is insane. We've done 2 examples, and between the 2 examples, they think they're probably going to save about £1,300 a year. And you're just like, that's bonkers. But because obviously their black waste gets weighed and food is heavy. So if you take the food out, the black waste comes down in weight. They're paying less for the black waste. And the food's actually being recycled rather than going into landfill.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that when Simone was talking as well, is that there's often this perception, Simone mentioned it right at the outset, about, becoming sustainable can be costly, it's expensive. But when you think that Simone saved 144 skips, turf is saving on the cost of waste, the charges. It's it actually it's potentially a profitable exercise being sustainable. It's the opposite of what you think. You put that effort in at the start and you'll get the money back,
and then just imagine
financial return. So
imagine imagine those groups of young people who are joining your business that just, again, if they're used to recycling at home and they see it not happening in the workplace, they're going to be at best disappointed, at worst really quite disgusted, because they know that it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, even when I'm out in the streets now, if I have a coffee or I have, I don't know, a sandwich or something, and I'm like, well, I've got the rubbish, but I don't want to go and put it in that bin, because in actual fact, everything in that bin's going into one big landfill space. And you're like, yeah, but I can't carry this around, because I just can't walk around with the sandwich, I need to put it down somewhere. And it just was really bad. And you just think, how many decades ago could the governments have all said, right, if we're putting a bin in, we're going to put 2 bins in, so at least one's landfill, one's recycling, or whatever kind of recycling, and you just think such basic things, but it just should be there. And I know people say, well, take your waste home, but it does get a little, when you're like, well, I'm supposed to go into a professional meeting, I can't really walk on with my lunch packaging. Right. Just need to find things. But I think it would seem really strange in an office now. I mean, especially, see, the problem is, so for example, with the hotel here, I have tiny guest bins, because obviously when you go into a hotel, you don't expect to have massive bins in your bedroom, because you want a nice bed and a nice bathroom, not like massive bin displays. So I only have tiny bins, but then I personally put my rubber gloves on and split out everybody's bin waste so that I'm actually recycling things. So although it doesn't look like I'm recycling, I am. But I would dearly love somebody to invent some sexy mini version of a small bin that you can put into a hotel room. So I'm not having to split out all the recycling. And in actual fact, like a little food caddy for tea bags and stuff. And especially when I've had sort of people who have gone out for the day and have got all of their packed lunch waste and all the rest of it, I'm like picking out bits of sandwiches, and I'm just like, oh.
I think it's a new product line coming up for Commercial Group.
Exactly. I'm writing notes.
Yes, I'm happy to test it. I really, really am.
I think Meg's probably sitting there and thinking, oh, I've got some great candidates to sign up for Cheltenham Zero here to lead the way and be there. Yeah, so Ken, do you have any other thoughts about about what you've heard today and sustainability in general?
Well, I clearly can do a lot more, but it's something about diminishing returns, isn't it?
Mm.
We don't, well, just Lindsay, what you were saying about food waste. I mean, domestically, we get food waste collections every week, recycling every fortnight. For us here in Leckhampton, it's tomorrow. But I'm surprised that the restaurant industry doesn't have, with the council, that have bins for food waste, because domestic food waste goes to that the plant in Stoke Orchard, creating
Yes.
methane gas, which runs things, and so on. So I'm just surprised that
It's really sad, isn't it? Really sad. Yeah. Domestically, the council are happy to support and help and all the rest of it, but commercially, they won't step in. So yes, and obviously depending on who you have your waste with as to what their ethics are and what their sustainability plan is, etc. But where you're mentioning Stoke Orchard, that is indigestion, and so that's why I'm trying to bring them in to the commercial side in the town centre, because to me it seems absolutely ridiculous that it's just not been done yet. It just seems really strange to me.
Well, it is strange because that plant's been open for a few years, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a new thing, is it?
No. And that all our vegetable peelings and tea bags and so on, coffee grounds, go to our two compost bins and support our polytunnel and the rest of the garden for next year.
That's another one, is growing your own produce.
Mm-hmm.
Don't turn the car park into a production line of food. Big good way, and have everybody in on their bikes. So just to wind up, we've got the last couple of minutes. I'd just like to ask Megan and Simone if you could just finish off a couple of brief comments, just to finish off the discussion and your thoughts and suggestions, maybe. So I'll start with Meg first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think about what we've just been talking about is sort of coming to sustainability from a positive mindset. There is obviously a lot of doom and gloom all over the news, and it is like quite scary, and it sort of is a bit demotivating sometimes. But I think if everyone remembers, if we all work together, like, we can sort this problem out. It can be sorted in time. Like, if you think about how much has happened within the last, like, even just 5 years, like, there's so much more technology about it, people are talking about it so much more, so it's a lot more positive than I think sometimes the news does sort of show us. There is a lot of options for us out there, and if we all, like, I just think that working together as a community, we can do it. I think we can do it. I think it's quite a positive. We can see it in a positive way and get there together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That positivity, so important. And Simone, your final thoughts?
Has anybody watched Biggest Little Farm?
No.
What?
Biggest Little Farm.
I've not heard of that.
I suggest you watch it. It's amazing documentary that follows a couple that decide that they're going to have a completely natural, biodiverse farm, and it's one of the most beautiful, uplifting things that I've seen around sustainability. So I'd kind of lead by suggesting you watch that. And then just saying that I think that sustainability builds what I call social capital. So suddenly you'll get people talking to each other in your organization in a completely different way, and you'll get a real turbo energy of loyalty from your community, from your staff, from your clients, if you get it right. And I think that social capital is as important as cash flow. That would be my final two things.
Really good point, and another positive message as well. So I think we could take out of this that get your team engaged, have a positive message, a positive attitude to creating a sustainable workplace, and that's going to take you there. And as Simone said, be brave, make brave decisions, set brave goals at the start. So well, that's it. Thanks everybody for joining us. It's been really interesting discussion. I'm going to be looking for the biggest little farm on Google as soon as we come off, and I now know where to take my corks to Kent, so we'll be dropping them all off.
I'm off to watch Sexy Recycling.
Yes.
Steve, would you send me the email of the guy that does Sexy Recycling? My daughter's written a children's book that he might be interested in having a look at.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I was going to say, is in the chat, so I can pop that over to you. Actually,
yeah, just pop it on email to me. That would be amazing. Wonderful.
Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking part.
Great to see everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.